I wasn't planning to go outside that night. It was one of those Oklahoma thunderstorms where the rain doesn't just fall, it pounds sideways like it's trying to rip the siding off your house. The power had already flickered twice. I was home alone, heating up leftover stew, while my wife texted from her sister's place over in Broken Arrow. Then I heard shouting. I opened the door and saw Eric, the guy across the street, standing in the pouring rain, yelling at his truck. Hood up, engine dead. Him soaked through and punching the fender like it could feel pain. I called out, "You all right?" He shouted back, "Truck's dead. My son's flying in from Tel Aviv. First time I've seen him in 11 months. Just got back from deployment. He thinks I'm picking him up tonight." His voice cracked. That's when I stepped outside. I'm Tom Delaney. I'm 49. Been living on Elm Ridge Avenue in Tulsa for almost 2 decades. I'm not the neighbor who waves at every mailbox. But if your tire goes flat or your battery dies, I'll show up. I don't ask questions. I just help. And that night, I helped Eric push his truck through the mud and up my driveway while lightning split the sky behind us. I found a loose ground wire, swapped in a spare connector from my old Ford, and after an hour of freezing rain and silence, the engine roared to life. He grinned like I'd saved his kid's life, slapped me on the back, drove off into the storm, waving. But right before he turned away, I caught something in his eyes. Not gratitude. Something colder. Calculating. Like he'd just realized how useful I could be. I stood there soaked to the bone, proud I could help. What I didn't know is that I just handed him the perfect weapon to stab me in the back. And 2 weeks later, he used it. Ever been betrayed by someone you thought you helped? Drop your story in the comments. Because this one, it didn't end with a fine. It ended with a reckoning. 2 weeks later, I came home from work and saw it. A big orange sticker plastered on my front door, the kind that makes your stomach drop before you even read it. Code violation. Operating a commercial mechanic business in a residential zone. My hands went cold. I stood there for a minute, holding the screen door open, just staring. I wasn't running a business. I don't charge neighbors. Hell, I don't even fix my own truck half the time. But there it was, a printed citation with my address, a date, time, and a fine. $1,100. I took the letter inside and sat at the kitchen table reading it over and over, like the words were going to change if I blinked hard enough. The city claimed they had photographic evidence of me repeatedly performing auto repairs on residential property. There was a stack of grainy black and white photos included. My driveway. My hands under the hood of Eric's truck. One even caught me mid-reach for a socket wrench. Time-stamped. Dated. Clear as day. I felt sick. I called the number listed at the bottom, hoping this was a mistake. Maybe someone misfiled something. Maybe they thought I was someone else. The woman on the phone sounded polite but robotic. She read from a script. Told me the evidence came from a neighborhood complaint and that repeat violations could result in further penalties or even a court summons. I asked, "Can I know who filed the complaint?" She said, "I'm sorry, that information is confidential." But I knew. I knew exactly who did it. That night, I didn't eat dinner. I barely moved. I just sat in the dark with the kitchen light off, staring at the fine and the photos like they were some kind of betrayal letter. I kept picturing Eric's smile as he drove away that night. That slap on the back. That fake, too wide thank you. It all twisted into something else. At dawn the next morning, I saw him outside watering his flower bed. Calm as anything. He wore a white t-shirt, cargo shorts, and that same damn smirk. I walked across the street before I could talk myself out of it. "Hey," I said. My voice shook. "You see anyone taking pictures of my place recently?" He didn't even look surprised. He turned toward me, raised an eyebrow, and said, "You brought it on yourself, buddy." Just like that. I stared at him. "Are you serious? You shouldn't be doing car work in a residential neighborhood. Too much noise. City doesn't like it." "I fixed your truck," I said, "so you could see your son. That's it." He shrugged. "I didn't ask for that. You volunteered." Something in me cracked. I took a half step forward and then stopped myself. My fists clenched so hard my knuckles popped. I walked away. Fast. Back inside. I slammed the door so hard the walls shook. Carla, my wife, had just gotten home. She found me in the pantry 10 minutes later. Sitting on the floor with my hand bleeding, I'd punched through the drywall. Couldn't even explain why. I paid the fine the next day. Not because I agreed with it. Because I didn't want things getting worse. But they did. The following week, I got a letter from our HOA reminding me of the no vehicle maintenance in driveways rule. It was clearly a warning. 2 days later, I got another notice from the city. Someone had reported my trash bin being left in the street instead of properly returned to the curb. A violation. A warning. Again. And then the kicker. Someone filed a complaint about my fence. Said it had a safety risk due to a missing slat on the west side. The one facing Eric's property. At that point, Carla started to worry. She told me to let it go. Don't escalate this, she said. You're not that kind of man. And she was right. I wasn't. But I couldn't stop seeing his face. That smug look, like he'd won. Every time I passed by his yard, saw his truck parked like a trophy on the driveway, or heard him chatting with other neighbors like nothing happened. The rage twisted tighter in my gut. It wasn't just about the fine anymore. It was about what it meant. That he could do something cruel, calculated, and petty, and get away with it. That he thought I'd stay quiet, just roll over. That the world would side with him. He didn't know me. He didn't know how long I could wait, or what I was willing to do when pushed. And in that moment, I made a quiet promise to myself. If he wanted a war, I'd make sure it ended with silence, but not mine. I didn't do anything at first. For a few days, I forced myself to breathe. I went to work, came home, pretended like nothing had happened. But under the surface, I was unraveling. I stopped listening to the radio on my drive home. Silence was easier. Carla tried to talk to me at dinner, but I barely responded. She'd catch me staring out the window, jaw clenched, eyes locked on Eric's house across the street. That damn house. That perfect lawn. That stupid Dodge Ram parked like a monument to smugness. And Eric? He acted like nothing had happened. Waved at the mailman. Trimmed his hedges. Blew leaves off the sidewalk with his obnoxiously loud leaf blower every Saturday morning like clockwork. I'd see him chatting with other neighbors who now barely looked at me. I didn't need anyone to tell me what was happening. The way people crossed the street instead of passing my driveway. The tight, polite smiles. The pitying looks from old Mrs. Kinley 2 doors down. They thought I was the problem now. The mechanic. The angry one. The guy who got reported. Eric had poisoned the well. But he didn't know one thing about me. I don't forget. I started small. Just watching. I'd sit on my porch some evenings with a cold beer and a pair of binoculars I hadn't touched in years. Nothing creepy. I wasn't peeking in windows. I just observed. I started logging the times his truck left, when it came back, who showed up, what kind of packages he got. There was a silverwork van that started coming every Thursday evening. Always the same routine. Pull up, knock once, Eric comes out, they talk for a minute, and the guy hands him something small, an envelope maybe. Then Eric disappears into the garage. The van drives off. I thought maybe it was nothing. But then I remembered the way Eric had said, too much noise. The city doesn't like it. Right. Because heaven forbid I help a neighbor in my driveway. But he can run some kind of weird side gig out of his garage with no one batting an eye? I started keeping notes. Times. Dates. Descriptions. Carla caught me writing one night after dinner and asked what I was doing. Nothing, I said. Just clearing my head. She looked unconvinced, but didn't push. She wanted peace. I wanted truth. A week later, I saw something new. A younger guy, maybe early 20s, scruffy beard, black hoodie, standing in Eric's driveway, smoking. He leaned against the truck like he owned the place, flicking ash into the grass and staring right at my house. We locked eyes for a moment. He didn't look away. The next morning, there was trash in my front yard. Fast food wrappers. An empty beer bottle. A cigarette, but same brand the guy had been smoking. I cleaned it up without a word. But that night, I moved my trail cam from the backyard to the eave over the front porch. Just in case. The footage didn't show much at first. A few cars. Some headlights. A raccoon. But then, 3 nights later, I caught someone walking past my truck around 2:15 a.m., pausing for just a second. Then they walked off. Could have been nothing. But I didn't believe in coincidences anymore. Especially not when, 2 days later, my dog got sick after digging something out of the side yard. Carla had to take her to the vet emergency visit. Turned out it was a chicken bone, sharp, greasy, and likely tossed over the fence. That was it. I was done waiting. I called Ronnie, an old friend from work who'd moved out of the neighborhood years ago. If there was anyone who hated the HOA more than me, it was Ronnie. He once built a shed in his backyard just to piss off the board president. When I told him everything about Eric, the fine, the complaints, the trash, the kid in the hoodie, He let out a low whistle. "Sounds like you got yourself a real snake," he said. "You want to fight this?" I hesitated. I just wanted to stop. He laughed. "Nah, man. You want to win." Then he gave me a name. Paul Gutierrez. Retired city inspector. Knew every code, every loophole, every dirty trick in the book. "Meet him," Ronnie said. "Tell him everything. And bring that notebook of yours." I met Paul the next morning at a diner off Memorial. He looked like a guy who'd seen some things. Thick gray mustache, eyes sharp as nails, the kind of calm that made you nervous. I talked for 20 minutes straight. When I finally stopped, Paul leaned back in his seat and said, "Anyone else on your street ever have trouble with this guy?" "I don't know," I said. No one said anything. He smirked. Then we started asking. Paul didn't waste time. That afternoon, he walked my street with me, not in some dramatic, trench coat kind of way. He just looked like an old guy taking a slow stroll, occasionally pausing to check a fence post or glance at a sidewalk crack. But I could see his eyes working, cataloging, measuring. He had a clipboard, a pen that clicked every 3 seconds, and the kind of calm that made you feel like maybe, just maybe, things were about to turn. We knocked on 5 doors that day. 3 answered. 2 actually talked. The first was Nate, a contractor who lived 4 houses down. Big guy, sleeves always rolled up, callus as thick as tree bark. At first, he was standoffish until Paul mentioned Eric's name. "Oh, that guy," Nate said, crossing his arms. "He filed a complaint last year because I had a cement mixer out for 2 days. Said it was a nuisance. Did the city fine you?" Paul asked. "Yeah, $500. I had to push the job back a week." Nate had never said anything. Didn't want to stir the pot. But you could tell it still burned him. The second was Mrs. Lucinda Garcia, widowed, soft-spoken, kept to herself. Her dog, Baxter, had gotten violently sick a few months earlier. Turned out someone had thrown what looked like poisoned meat over her fence. I didn't have to say a word. She just looked at me and said, "Was it him?" I nodded. Her lips tightened. "Tell me what to do." By the end of the week, we had 4 more stories. A young couple who got a formal HOA citation for improper landscaping because their flowers weren't uniform enough. A schoolteacher who'd gotten a warning for having her trash can out 10 minutes past pickup. A retired veteran named Howard who'd been told to repaint his mailbox or face a daily fine. All traced back to one person, Eric Monroe. And all of them thought they were alone. That's what made him so effective. He picked people off quietly. Never loud. Never messy. Just enough pressure to make you back down, fix it, move on. But now? Now we weren't isolated targets anymore. We were a group. Paul helped us organize, nothing fancy. Just a Saturday morning gathering in my backyard. Folding chairs. A whiteboard. Everyone brought their own coffee and bitterness. Paul laid out the plan. We'd gather documentation, real, detailed. Time-stamped records. HOA citations. Photos. Emails. City notices. Anything with Eric's name on it, were tied to a complaint that led back to his property line. We'd file one unified complaint to the city ombudsman, someone who wasn't part of the HOA and couldn't be easily brushed off like a regular code office. And we'd sign our names. No more anonymous tips. No more hiding. If we were going to take this public, we were going to do it with full transparency, because the only thing a bully fears more than exposure is solidarity. Carla didn't love it at first. She thought I was still obsessed. Maybe I was. But when she saw the stack of letters, the matching dates, the near-identical language in every complaint, she sat down next to me and said, "You're not crazy. He really is targeting people." It wasn't just the violations. It was the pattern. The anonymous emails traced back to the same IP address. The wording in the HOA notices matched his voice exactly. Paul had heard him use certain phrasing before. And most telling of all, the burner Gmail accounts used for city complaints, they were all created in the same week, from the same zip code. Paul even pulled a few public records on Eric's rental property over on Maple. Multiple complaints. 2 inspections. No action taken. Because the inspector assigned to the case used to work on the same code enforcement team Paul had retired from. A guy named Doyle. Paul raised an eyebrow when he saw the signature. "Of course," he muttered. Doyle always did love playing favorites. That's when I realized this wasn't just about me, or even about Eric. It was about a system that let him get away with it, because no one ever challenged him out loud. Until now. We submitted our complaint the following Thursday. 15 pages. 7 signatures. for photo packets. One timeline that made it impossible to ignore what Eric had been doing. The city ombudsman called Paul personally, asked questions, took it seriously. And just like that, the silence cracked. It wasn't war yet. But for the first time, Eric wasn't the only one holding the cards. It didn't happen overnight. For a few days, nothing changed. No letters, no calls, no headlines. I mowed my lawn. Nate kept hammering his new porch steps. Mrs. Garcia walked Baxter a little slower, a little straighter. But then 5 days later, something did change. An official-looking SUV pulled up in front of Eric's house. Not the HOA, not the local cop. This one had a city logo on the door and a clipboard in the passenger seat. A woman in a windbreaker stepped out, knocked on his door, talked with him for maybe 2 minutes. Then she walked the perimeter of the property with a camera, taking shots of the garage, the side fence, the storm drain near the curb. Eric stood at the door the whole time, arms crossed, watching. And I watched him. He didn't wave that day, didn't make small talk with the neighbors, didn't water his damn petunias. 2 mornings later, a yellow tag appeared on the gate to his backyard. Pending inspection, zoning compliance review. That was the crack. The first visible fracture in his perfect little kingdom. By the weekend, the HOA sent out an urgent community update via email. It was full of vague, bureaucratic language. Due to a recent volume of concern, temporary reassignment of board responsibilities, active investigation in collaboration with city oversight. Translation? Eric was suspended from the HOA board. Just like that. No more power to write violations. No more fake authority. No more anonymous memos with his fingerprints all over them. He was just another neighbor now. Another guy with a house and a lawn and a truck. Only now, nobody waved back. People started talking more to each other, not through complaint forms. Someone helped Mrs. Garcia fix her fence. Nate offered to reseal Howard's mailbox for free. Carla started waving again when she got the mail. The street felt lighter. But Eric? He didn't take it well. At first, he just ignored us, pretended nothing happened. But then, he started trying to reclaim his space. He'd leave his truck running longer in the mornings, slam the trash bin harder, play his music louder at night. Old rock songs from the 80s, volume cranked up like a teenager rebelling against his curfew. One night, I caught him outside just standing in the dark, not doing anything, just staring across the street at my house. His silhouette sharp under the porch light, arms folded, chin raised like he was trying to measure me with his eyes. The next morning, I found a note taped to my windshield. Mind your business. No signature. Just thick black marker, all caps. Carla wanted to call the cops right away. I didn't. Not yet. We weren't done. Paul filed a second request, this time digging into Eric's rental property across town. It had flown under the radar for too long. Within a week, that property was flagged for inspection too. The city discovered black mold in the basement, faulty electrical wiring, a plumbing issue that had gone unresolved for over a year, and, most importantly, unpermitted appliance storage in the detached garage. That last part triggered a violation big enough to carry a $3,000 fine. And that's when Eric snapped. It was a Thursday evening. The silver van pulled up as usual, but this time, it didn't leave right away. It lingered. And for the first time, 2 other guys got out. Young, rough-looking. They didn't knock. They walked straight into the backyard through the side gate, like they owned the place. I couldn't hear what they said, but Eric was pacing, gesturing, loud. My trail cam caught everything, grainy, but clear enough to see faces. Paul said to hang on to the footage, just in case. That weekend, I saw a familiar figure walk up the driveway, Eric's son. Last time I heard of him, he was flying in from Tel Aviv. Now, he looked harder, angrier. Maybe Eric had filled his head with lies. He didn't say a word, just turned around and walked inside. The next day, I found grease poured near my back fence. Not motor oil, not transmission fluid. Something thick, dark, and slippery poured in a perfect line where my dog liked to walk. I didn't clean it. I documented it, with photos, timestamps, a written log. I was done playing defense. We had momentum now. The ombudsman was involved. The city had eyes on both properties. The HOA board was flipping, quietly, but you could feel it. The neighbors who once stayed silent were now asking questions. And Eric? He was cracking, one crack at a time. He hadn't just lost control. He'd lost the thing he valued most. Silence. The note on my windshield was just the beginning. Over the next week, I found 3 more. I got 3 notes. First, slid under the door, vague but menacing. Second, under the doormat, more direct, more vulgar. Third, in all caps, across my mailbox. You want war? You got it. Each one louder. Each one closer. Carla lost it when she saw that one. This isn't normal, Tom, she said, her voice trembling. They know it's you. They're watching the house. What if they come back? She wasn't wrong. But I didn't back down. Instead, I started parking my truck down the block, alternating sides of the street. I kept our porch lights on all night. I double-checked the locks before bed. And I moved the trail cam again, this time facing the side yard where the grease had been poured. But deep down, I wasn't sleeping. I was too far in. The city sent a new notice that Friday. Formal violation filed against Eric Monroe's rental property. It included photos taken during the inspection. Paul had a copy delivered to every homeowner in the HOA as community awareness. The photos didn't just show mold or faulty wiring. They showed the inside of his backyard garage packed with old washers, dryers, a chemical drum, a set of unlabeled toolboxes, and several makeshift shelves covered in parts. It looked more like a scrapyard than a residence. And this time, the fine was steeper. $5,100 and a criminal citation for illegal dumping. Eric tried to claim it wasn't his, said the renters had done it, that he wasn't responsible. But it wasn't just the fine. It was the loss of control. The unraveling of an image he'd spent years crafting. The neighbor, the organizer, the man with the answers. And for someone like Eric, that wasn't just embarrassing. It was unbearable. But the lease documents listed him as both landlord and maintenance provider. He'd signed off on everything. And now? It was public. The HOA board officially suspended his voting rights. He was removed from the complaint review committee, and a full audit was ordered of every report he'd filed in the last 2 years. His reputation shattered. But it wasn't over. One night, around 11:30, I was brushing my teeth when I heard shouting outside. Male voices. Loud. Slurred. I ran to the front door and saw Eric's son standing at the edge of our yard, arms flailing, face red. You ruined us, he screamed. You happy now, old man? That's what you wanted, huh? He took 2 steps toward the porch before tripping over the curb. He got up slow, eyes glazed. Breathing heavy, then pointed straight at me. You'll pay for this. I didn't move. I didn't shout back. I just called the police, with the phone on speaker, clear and steady. By the time the cruiser pulled up, half the neighborhood was on their porches. Eric's son was arrested for public intoxication and trespassing. The next morning, I filed a restraining order. Carla stood in the kitchen holding the paperwork. Her hands were shaking. You said you just wanted it to stop, she whispered. But now it's not just him. It's affecting us. Me. The kids. Even the dog. I looked at her, really looked, and saw it. The stress. The fear. The nights she sat by the window while I stayed up watching cameras. The dinners eaten in silence. The warmth that used to live between us now replaced with suspicion and short tempers. I had been so focused on making Eric pay that I hadn't noticed what it was costing me. That night, I sat in the garage and stared at the folder Paul had helped me build, thick now, bursting with every receipt, photo, timestamp, and testimony. We'd won, but it didn't feel like a win. It felt like surviving a flood and realizing your house was still standing, but half the foundation was gone. Then came the final twist. I received a letter from Eric, handwritten, folded in thirds, delivered by someone else, maybe his lawyer, maybe just someone desperate. Inside, it said, "Let's call it even. You drop your complaints, I'll drop mine. We go back to normal. No more police. No more city inspections. Let it die." It wasn't an apology. It was a negotiation. An offer from a man who finally realized he was drowning. But it was too late. Because while Eric was busy trying to save himself, someone else had turned on him too. His ex-wife, who still co-owned the rental property on paper, had filed her own formal complaint to the city for property mismanagement, unpaid taxes, and damages. She attached photos, voicemails, copies of maintenance reports she never saw, and a claim stating she never agreed to convert the garage into storage for his side business. She demanded full release of liability, or else she'd sue for breach of contract. Paul looked over the documents and whistled. "That's the nail in the coffin," he said. And he was right. The city started the process to seize the rental property unless repairs and fines were paid in full. And Eric? He was out of time and out of allies. I read it twice, folded it, unfolded it, and then I left it there. I didn't respond, because for the first time, I didn't need to prove anything to him. The city wasn't slowing down. The ombudsman followed through. The HOA audit uncovered a pattern of manipulation, dozens of complaints written in identical phrasing, targeting the same 7 houses. Us. It became clear this wasn't just neighborhood drama. It was targeted harassment, hidden behind bylaws and smiley waves. And the city finally saw it. They issued a final notice. Either Eric paid the full $5,100 in fines and restored the rental property to livable condition, or the city would seize the house and auction it to recover damages. Then the big one dropped. The appliance repair side business? Unlicensed, uninsured, operating for cash only. He'd hidden it well, under tarps, behind fences, staggered pickup times, but the photos, the trail cam footage. And Paul's expertise exposed everything. He was hit with 2 more violations. And this time, criminal charges were filed for improper disposal of chemical waste. Eric disappeared for a while after that. The truck was gone. The lights stayed off. The mailbox overflowed. We figured maybe he went to stay with family. Or maybe he was fighting things behind the scenes. Either way, no one missed him. Then one night, about 2 weeks later, I heard tires crunching in the gravel. It was close to midnight. I looked out the window and saw him. Eric. He was back. But this time, he wasn't storming or shouting or stomping his authority around. He was packing. The driveway was full of half-open boxes. A flatbed trailer behind the Dodge Ram. He moved slowly, shoulders hunched, loading things with no real urgency, just a tired, defeated rhythm. He didn't look up once. Not even when I stepped outside. I stood on my porch, arms crossed, just watching. He loaded the last box, something that looked like a toolbox, into the truck bed, bungee corded it tight, and pulled the garage door down for the last time. Then he got in the truck, backed out, and turned down the street. He didn't wave. He didn't stop. And just like that, he was gone. No apology. No explanation. Just silence. And oddly enough, I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't pump my fist or smile or go inside bragging. I just stood there, watching those red taillights shrink into the dark, until they turned the corner and disappeared completely. It was over. The storm, the fines, the reports, the fear, the sleepless nights. But peace didn't come rushing back like a wave. It came slow. In moments. In pieces. It came when the mail arrived with no anonymous letters tucked underneath. It came when Carla smiled again during breakfast. It came when the neighbors waved like they meant it. When kids rode their bikes past our driveway without their parents staring. When Baxter barked at squirrels instead of shadows. It came when I realized I hadn't looked at the cameras in 3 days. A few days later, Ronnie texted me. Just 2 words. Told you. I didn't even need to reply. Because somehow, that quiet nod from an old friend felt like closure. One Sunday afternoon, Carla and I sat out on the porch with iced tea, watching the neighborhood return to life. She looked at me and said, "It feels lighter." I nodded. "It does." Then she added, "But you scared me." That landed like a rock in my chest. She wasn't wrong. I'd gone to war with Eric. But somewhere along the way, I'd let him live inside me. I'd measured my day by whether he looked at me. I'd stopped listening, stopped laughing, stopped sleeping. And the worst part? I never even wanted revenge. I just wanted fairness. But fairness in the hands of a broken man can turn you bitter if you're not careful. So, I apologized. To Carla. To my sons when they visited. To myself, quietly, for letting rage live rent-free in my chest. I started going to therapy. I stopped checking the HOA portal every night. I deleted the folder titled, Eric, Evidence. I watered my own damn lawn. And slowly, P stopped feeling like a stranger. A month later, the house across the street sold. A young couple moved in, teachers, both in their early 30s. They waved the day they arrived, asked if we knew any good takeout nearby, offered us leftover boxes of donuts when their movers left. I helped them carry in a dresser. Didn't even think twice. Because helping people? That's who I am. That's who I was before Eric. And no matter how loud the storm gets, I'm not letting anyone change that again.